What is up, you guys, and welcome back to Bvi Pilots. I am your host, John. Glad to be with you guys once again. And it is today's date, Sunday, August 2nd, 2020. And we're going to just kind of review a video here of a guy talking about Microsoft 2020, some of the features, and then we're going to try to lay that beside the sim that we use and ask, is it that much, better than what we have already? Or is it something, because a lot of people had expected Microsoft to come out with the sim for it to be accessible for those of us that are visually impaired and be able to use a reader on it, screen reader. But that's just not the case. And, no, I can't go into the sim and show you that with Microsoft 2020 yet. But I just don't think it's worth spending that money on it if you can't access it. And I might still get it and at some point and, use IRA to maybe try to get a couple things done to where I can at least show you guys a few things. But the accessibility is not there. But let's have a look at what this guy says as far as these top features. Let's have a listen.
And they're just giving us little bits of news every week. Now, I'm not a journalist. I don't do the news, so I'm really looking forward to this coming out because I will certainly be ramping up my output of footage to YouTube on Flight Simulator 2020 when it comes out. But anyway, that's another day's work. So first of all, I want to examine the top 10 features that you will see in Microsoft 2020. But wait, who am I to present a preview of Flight Simulator 2020? Well, I can say for sure that I've had every single version of Flight Simulator since the first version was released in 1982. 1982. Oh God, I just after realising that was 38 years ago. 38 years ago. And I've had every version. Oh my God, what a wasted childhood. What have I been doing with my life? Okay, let's just continue. So anyway, the first one was Flight Simulator Uno number 1. It was actually called Sublogic, but then Microsoft bought it. So yeah, due to this.
Okay, so this guy is definitely he's been doing this for a while. So let's have a wow, the very first one. So let's have a listen here.
Terrible affliction I have had with flight simulators. And this, indeed, it's what's an addiction, essentially. I eventually obtained a commercial aviation license from the European Aviation Safety Agency, and I have been instructing pilots, both private and commercial, for over 16 years. So I hope I know a little about the difference between a flight simulator and real-life flying, and what indeed makes a good, realistic flight simulator in the 21st century. But side note, I must tell you that I have no affiliation with Asobo or Microsoft in any way whatsoever. So just get that out of the way. So what are we looking at? First of all, my 10 points, my 10 features I want to highlight to you are accessibility, aerodynamics, graphics, weather engine, world, the sound, the potential for flight training, scalability, realism, and immersion. Let's start with number 1, accessibility.
This would be good.
So who is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 made for? Well, everyone. Not only, it appears, is it for the hardcore flight sim enthusiast, it's for someone who has never experienced a flight simulator before, and they intend to lure you in with the astonishing graphics. Not just good graphics, but real-world topography. That is to say, so good you can fly over your local city, your local village, or even your own house. More on the graphics coming up. But if you're a newbie, you may say to yourself, I couldn't possibly fly one of those complicated aircraft. It's just too much. Well, Asobo and Microsoft have cunningly included for the first time ever in 38 years the Cessna 152 in the base package. Now, what's a Cessna 152 if you don't know? Well, someone in Microsoft or Asobo have been giving sound advice, as the Cessna 152 is one of the most popular trainer aircraft in the world, and it has been for quite some decades. In fact, 7,584 plus change have been built worldwide, and I can tell you there is at least some in every flight training school. That's worth its salt. The Cessna 152 is favoured in the real world for its flight training due to its simplicity to operate, its simple and easy to grasp flying characteristics, simple design, and its docile performance for new pilots. Not only have they included the Cessna 152 for newbies, but the Cessna 172 and the DA40, which are also heavily sought after aircraft in the flight training community around the world. So, what am I getting at? Well, I'm getting at the point that Microsoft are fully aware that they want the biggest market possible. So they're going to look for newbies, people who have never flown Flight Simulator before at all. And I can tell they're going there because of the menu system, of the fact that you can just pop in an aircraft on the beginning of the runway, everything switched on and set up for you, the engine's running, and all you have to do is add power. You can use your keyboard to fly it, you can use your Xbox controller to fly it, because, well, it will be out for the Xbox as well, by the way, so that even confirms that they want newbies to fly Flight Simulator, and you can fly it very, very easily. But the beauty about Microsoft Flight Simulator is the very thin layer at the top. You get up, you fly, you try to land. If you're completely new, you figure it out, you have a bit of fun, you fly around. But then as you get better at it and you want a bit more depth, it is there. There's so much depth to flight simulators. It's there if you want it. So you won't be a newbie forever. Furthermore, there will be a simplified tutorial system for you within the flight simulator. People often say to me, oh, I wouldn't be able for Flight Simulator. It's far too complicated for me. I'd love to try it though, but sure, I'd be no good at it, so they don't bother. But look if you don't start badly, you'll never start. So start badly. But that's how everybody starts, isn't it? Start badly and enjoy it. And that's how that works. So it's available for everyone. That's what I'm trying to say. So that concludes number 1, accessibility. And yes.
All right, so let's just talk about that for a minute. That's a completely different version of accessibility. And I think that maybe that is where all these mistakes are being thrown around about accessibility. They're talking about it being accessible to anyone whatsoever, meaning if you know how to fly or if you don't know how to fly. That's where they're getting off with accessibility. So, from the get-go, me and another BVI member said, it's bullcrap. It's not going to be, there's no way. It's not going to be ready for us. And we was right. Now, you just heard it from this guy. The accessibility, that's a different form of accessibility. And it has nothing whatsoever to do with it being accessible to the blind. Now, I think that if it does become accessible to the blind, they need to make that very clear. Not just say accessibility. Quote, accessible to the blind. Quote. Seriously, right? That's what I think. So, what do you think? We've got others that have definitely shared their opinion on this. Brandon, Josh, myself, Declan, Jesse. But who else? Who else? What do you feel about Microsoft and this whole accessibility thing? I believe that it goes right back to what me and Declan said in the beginning. And that's where it's been from the start. That's where my mind frame's been. And that hasn't changed. So, anyways, you guys, we'll be doing some more flights here later on. Microsquash, or give us a hashtag Microsquash. Hashtag Microsquash. If you, agree that accessibility is just not there. And if you got questions, leave them down below. Email us. Follow us on Twitter at BVI Pilots. You can also email us bvipilotspodcast at gmail.com. So, anyways, that's all I got. Microsquash, you failed the blind community. We can't use it. It's not accessible. Oh, but it is accessible. Accessible to where anyone can fly it. Well, not anyone. Not anyone.
Yes, it is accessible to everybody, and that's how it's designed. So don't worry, this won't happen to you.